Hey everybody, welcome to my review of 65. I guess if you care about spoilers for this movie, then I should warn you right now. So this is written and directed by the same writers behind A Quiet Place, and you can definitely tell, but not in the good ways. It seems that John Krasinski may be responsible for a lot of the reverence and intentionality that comes with A Quiet Place. So all the gripes that people have from A Quiet Place, like about logic and why didn't the government just blast them with sound? This is stupid. Where is everybody? Those kinds of issues and flaws seem to be kind of amplified in 65 or just kind of passed over more. So yeah, this movie was disappointing. Premise hooked me. I mean, guy's spaceship crash lands on dinosaur-ridden Earth, alternate history, sci-fi. I mean, I'm there. Like, you got me, but they just don't seem up to the task that they themselves set up. Bare bones script. Adam Driver's doing his best to carry this premise. They gave him a very weighty past to kind of munch on as an actor. I will say one of the things I found that the movie actually executed decently well was the reveal of Adam Driver's backstory. I kind of expected a more by the numbers, get home to my daughter type ending that this movie set up at the beginning. And the darker reveal of that backstory actually did a little bit to justify why Adam Driver is so moody and kind of bland in this movie. So it helps it a little bit. But I think the overall direction that this film just decided to take may have been one of the more boring approaches to this material. It didn't really explore the nooks and crannies of what made this premise cool. Most of the movie is kind of just one tone and kind of uber dramatic, but there are some comedic sequences sprinkled in throughout. You immediately know that they're starting because the tone instantly shifts and becomes a different movie. And it only lasts for that scene. And it's just there to make you try to like these boring characters and kind of get you out of that dreary and depressing tone that you're just stuck in the whole movie. The alternate history of it all is like the selling point of this movie. It's what made that trailer look cool to people. And it goes largely unexplored in this movie. There are some tech versus dino sequences sprinkled in. Probably not enough to satisfy most people that are going to see this movie. But those sequences are some of the cooler parts of the movie because you can actually tell that someone thought out how that gear works and what its function is. You just compare that with like the rest of the movie that's like not thought out at all. And those scenes become the highlight of the movie because they're so refreshing because there's care put into them. I think this movie could have benefited from a few more characters. You have a bunch of pods and randomly the only one that survives the crash is a little girl who happens to be around the same age of the girl you just lost. It's just too convenient. I mean, maybe if you have like a few more characters that you can bounce between, maybe start to reveal why you're just trekking through interstellar space, crossing by Earth, maybe reveal some of the reason why you're doing this stuff. That could have brought a little more interest and just straight up entertainment value to the movie. All of that is sacrificed for a more personal, intimate, dramatic story. But I'm just not convinced that this is what that movie needed. I get you wanted to manufacture some communication barriers like you did with A Quiet Place, but honestly, just having two characters that can't understand each other the whole film doesn't make for interesting storytelling. In A Quiet Place, the communication is still there, and I get you wanted to try to find those nuances of how do I sign? How do I show them up the mountain? Oh, I draw a mountain and I point up the mountain. But it's just a slippery slope with that kind of storytelling too, because you're just waiting, as the audience member, you're just waiting for that character to understand something that they probably shouldn't have or that they have no context for. And somehow they're just, oh, I get you, bud. I get you. And this movie seems to be pretty sloppy in that regard. It definitely gets that way towards the end. Most of this movie's flaws is just not living up to the excitement of its premise that it set or kind of just hollow storytelling throughout. But the geyser in this film is one thing that kind of sent me over the edge of negativity and made me feel like the writers were actively disregarding their own writing or their own material. Immediately when you see the geyser at the beginning of this movie, you're like, well, that's coming back at the end. He's using that as a weapon. It's a giant explosive blast. There's a shot that hints at how it's burning his skin. Then halfway through the movie, I'm like, well, man, they've gone pretty far. Maybe they're just not going to get back to the geyser. That was just like a little flavor of prehistoric Earth. Because from what I remember, they traveled horizontally pretty far. It was like a day and a half journey. And then right at the end, they start going up the mountain. And I guess at the end, the ship slides all the way down the mountain and lands right next to the geyser because Adam Driver's, he's just within running distance of that geyser. But it just invalidates the whole journey that those two characters went on by having that geyser so close. It's like they walked in circles for a day and a half, just signing each other, trying to point, ooh, circle, circle, circle. And then at the last second, they're like, oh, let's go up the mountain. Oh, let's get to the geyser, let's get to the geyser. And the geyser has a hot and cold temperature apparently because the dino gets blasted walks it off, and then gets absolutely smelted on the next blast. It's just inconsistent and convenient storytelling. The writing is just forced. Like, it's definitely supposed to be a shut your brain off and enjoy it kind of movie, but the rest of the movie's tone is so dramatic and slow that it's asking the audience to take it seriously. It also cuts to credits at kind of a weird moment. You're sitting there waiting for something interesting to kind of close it out, and then it's just like